character for Don't Starve Together on PC. The character's name is Whisper. Whisper is a female bunny who is wanting to end up getting away from her brethren and explore the world around her. Normally the bunnymen in the game are a bit dim-witted. They're only able to say like one word at a time, whereas Whisper is much more intelligent, and she ends up feeling like she's basically bullied around the other ones who don't understand her. So it's why she ends up wanting to get away and explore and make new friends. Whisper's name comes from just her shyness. She ends up wanting to make friends, but because she ends up growing up with her brethren and keeping to herself most of the time, that's why she is named that. So going into the settings for the character, Whisper is a vegetarian. Being a vegetarian in the game is actually a penalty to you. You'd prefer to be an herbivore if you can. Taking away the meat that you can eat in the game ends up having an effect on your hunger, because most of the meat products in the game supply a lot of hunger and make it easier. So this ends up coming back into play later on regarding her hunger and kind of how the character is built around that. Her main ability is the ability to burrow into the ground by pressing B. When she gets into her burrow, she is unable to be attacked by enemies. She can move around slightly faster. She ends up having some insulation that helps protect her against the heat or the cold. She has some waterproofing to her, and she also can sometimes kick up treasures from the ground if she's moving around a lot. When she ends up initially burrowing into the ground, she ends up having to pay a hunger cost of 10. The reason I wanted to put this initial hunger cost into it is I didn't want people to be able to spam this ability when they go into combat just to avoid being hit. So if you do decide to end up jumping in and out of your burrow a lot, it's going to end up eating away at your hunger really fast. To go along with that, I also knew that because she ends up getting a lot of bonuses while she's in her burrow, I wanted her to have some sort of penalty, or essentially like having a mana bar in a sense, to where she has to pay some sort of toll in order to use this ability. So if she jumps into her burrow and stays still, she'll gain these perks down here, aside from the burrow treasure, which I'll get to in a second. But if she's sitting still, her hunger will still drain a bit faster, but at least she'll end up getting these perks. While she's moving, it'll increase up to 200%, and that'll make it to where she's able to actually kick up treasures after a set period of time while she's moving. If she ends up hitting 0 when she reaches hunger, she's automatically pushed out of the burrow, and she can't get back into the burrow unless she has at least 10 hunger or more. The frequency for the treasure, so how this works is when she's in her burrow and she's actively moving, this 1 minute timer counts down. If it ends up reaching 0, then she ends up kicking up a treasure, and the treasures can be small things, they're nothing crazy. They'd be like maybe carrots, or they can be flint or rocks, things that wouldn't normally be in the ground anyways. With her being a bunny rabbit, she does enjoy carrots. The reason I ended up putting this into the game is because I wanted her to be able to get hunger from some other source that wasn't just vegetables. So being able to get carrots, she can rely on these really well, and so she can build up a carrot farm, which plays into her being a bunny rabbit. With her being also kind of a prey animal, I didn't want her to be focused around combat. Instead, her character is built more around avoiding combat at all costs. So, being fragile, she ends up taking, as you see, more damage from anything that's going to be attacking her. The Guilty ability, whenever she ends up killing a bunnyman or a rabbit in the game, because Whisper is a kind-hearted person, killing her brethren seems to have a way on her, and so she ends up having to take a sanity penalty whenever she ends up doing so. So it encourages people to be friendly to her bunny comrades. Going on with that, because of Whisper's friendly nature, she's able to recruit either pigmen or bunnymen in the game, and they stay with her for a longer period of time. The reason for this ability, not just because she's friendly, but because she doesn't personally fight very well, being able to recruit people and keep them around her for longer periods of time will help her in combat, so the allies can help her with the weaknesses that she has. Retreat is kind of playing into the prey mentality of the bunny rabbit. So if her health ends up getting below 40%, then she ends up getting adrenaline essentially, which allows her to move faster, but she's also going to be having a heavier penalty on her sanity while this is active. So it's essentially like she's running for her life, and that's what I wanted to do with this particular ability. These here are just the settings for the retreat ability on how much sanity is drained per minute and how fast she goes. Kind of playing back into with her being a friendly, kind-hearted bunny rabbit. The small animals in the game, such as the rabbits, normally run away from you if you get too close. So I wanted her to be able to get close to these animals without harming them in any way, so I decided to tack that on. And then lastly, the ability to pick up plants quickly. So Whisper's entire character is built around her being able to gather, being able to scout around without being harmed by enemies, and being able to get in and out and hunger. Alright, so here's Whisper. So these particular plants here, she can end up picking up very fast. Normally there's about a 1.5 second delay when it comes to picking up these plants. And so because of her innate ability to pick these plants up quickly, it makes her ideal for going out and collecting these, while others can focus more on like getting boulders or taking down trees or fighting enemies. As I mentioned before, picking up carrots and eating them give her more of a hunger bonus, which is great because of the lack of meat in her diet. Pressing the B ability allows her to jump into her burrow. She's able to move around. While she's in the burrow, she is still able to do some actions. For example, she's able to drop things on the ground. She is still able to pick objects as well, but she's not able to use items that are in her inventory or interact with things like such as using a pick to break rocks or cutting down trees, because it didn't seem to make any sense for that. Pressing the B button again allows her to jump out of the burrow so she can still actively run around and play as usual. So that's the quick rundown of Whisper and the character mod itself.